What comes to mind when I say creation of man? If you're Christian, you might think of God creating the world in 7 days. If you're Buddhist, you might think of man being in existence and always will be. If you're Native American, you might think of a bear, coyote, and a lizard shaping man from the mud. I don't believe in any of those things. I actually created what I and many people today believe. Hi, I'm Charles Darwin, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. On February 12, 1809, I was born to Robert and Susanna Darwin. I was raised on the hills of Shrewsbury with my 5 siblings. My father couldn't wait to get me out of the house, so he sent me at the age of 10 to a boarding school. 8 years later, he sent me and my brother Erasmus to a medical school called Edinburgh. I hated that school and I did really bad at it, so as a backup plan, my father sent me to Christ's College at Cambridge to become a clergyman, but I ironically graduated as a naturalist. After I graduated, I went on a 5-year voyage around the world. On that voyage, I began to doubt what I learned at Cambridge about God, mainly because we visited the heart of the slave trade. After we left Africa, I wrote in my journal, "It makes one's blood boil, yet heart tremble to know that we and our American descendants, with our cries of justice, have and are so guilty." Once I returned to England, I married Emma Wedgwood, my open-minded cousin, and moved to Down. There, we had 11 kids, but sadly 3 of them died. As all this was going on, I still was trying to solve my religious doubts. I began to come up with a theory that I called evolution. A common misconception about my theory is that it says God did not create man. That is not true. My theory does say that God didn't create man as we are today, but it says nothing about God not existing. Another common misconception about my theory is that it says man came straight from monkeys. That is also not true. What my theory actually says is that man shared a common ancestor with monkeys. You know the picture of the monkey becoming a man? That's not really what it was. The picture is of what man looked like thousands of years ago. It's not like a monkey decided, you know what, I want a higher level of intellect and dashing good looks, and boom, he became Brad Pitt. I eventually wrote a book about my theory called The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, which caused an uproar around England. When I wrote this book, I wanted it to be respectful yet persuasive. All in all, I wanted it to say, please read this and believe it. I was prepared for the uproar that it caused, but what I wasn't prepared for was my supporters. One man in particular, Thomas Henry Huxley, who would later be known as Darwin's Bulldog, sent me a letter praising my work, saying that someone should have thought of it sooner. Eventually, once the uproar died down, my life became very boring. I had wrote some books and revised some of my old ones, but apart from that, my life was very slow. Also, as I grew older, I always seemed to be constantly sick. Eventually, I had frequent waves of nausea and some heart attacks. Eventually, as I lay on my deathbed, my last words were, "I am not afraid to die." Thank you for listening to my speech.